We live in a beautiful spot. From my perspective, one of the most beautiful I can imagine. Tahoe Donner and the surrounding area is ideal for hiking, for biking, for horseback riding, for just spending time in the outdoors enjoying nature and the beautiful surroundings. But we also live with the potential for disaster, the potential for wildfire to sweep through the area we love. We live at the interface between open forest land and an urban setting. As such, we need to be prepared for the potential for catastrophic wildfire. I'm John Grumman. I'm the Director of Land Management for the Tahoe Donner Association. We manage the forest for forest health, forest resiliency, and fire protection. We also manage the forest for world-class recreation, so that when our members are out, whether they're mountain biking, Nordic skiing, downhill skiing, riding a horse through the woods, they are moving through a managed forest, not a forest that's left to stand on its own.
My perspective is how people really move through the forest and what they take away from their day in the forest. And I think more and more that's becoming more important. And I think folks are finding a new value in the forest as they see the way that we've had some of these catastrophic fires. I think folks are becoming much more interested and invested in what forest management is. And one thing that I've noticed more recently is that maybe even as recent as a couple of years ago, folks they were really accustomed, really attached to what the forest looked like around their homes, really attached to what the forest looked like as they were driving down Highway 89, I-80. And I think more and more people are understanding that the forest that they see in their lifetime is not the forest that was here before them, and it's not the forest that will come after them. We're seeing one piece of a forest lifespan. And so around us here, you're seeing a prescription on the landscape to try to bring some of our forest lands here at Tahoe Donner closer to what they would have been, say, 100 years ago. In a lot of the forestry projects that I've been involved in, people become concerned because what they anticipate is a drastic change in the forest structure. I think the acre in back of us is a really good example. The trees that I'm seeing here, to me, what I'm counting in maybe this acre is that it looks like maybe we're down to 50 or 60 trees left in this 1 acre. And so what we know is that historically, there would have been even fewer than that many trees in this 1 acre. And I think in this type of stand, these trees would have been more mature, there would have been less of them, and they would have been more resilient to changes in weather, changes in climate, more resilient to fire moving through the ecosystem. This is not just a simple clear cut. We're leaving a shaded overstory where what you see on the ground here, this is still a project that's underway, and so what you see left on the ground is about to be cleaned up. This will be masticated, it'll be piled, we'll be doing some interspersed burning here, but this project still has a long way to go to be finalized. So it's a step in the right direction, and over time what we know is the climate is changing quickly. We're seeing more sporadic snow, more sporadic rain, and so what we're looking to do is foster a healthy forest stand that's capable of withstanding these extended droughts, capable of withstanding a fire starting in it and not just racing through it. And I think we're doing a good job here on the Tahoe Donner landscape.
So if a fire came through here today, more than likely it would start down around Interstate 80 or on that area. It would come up the slope, and there's very little the firefighter's going to be able to do at that time. They can't get the equipment on those steeper slopes. It's going to come up to the slopes. The firefighters are going to meet it up at the top, and with all the projects that we've done, eliminating the dense forest, eliminating the ground litter and brush fields, that should assist the firefighters in getting it put out once the topography changes.
We prioritize these projects on our outer perimeters where we can, this is our focus. Those narrow strips of common area, yes, a lightning strike, yes, a rogue fire could occur in there. But what we know is I-80, the residences below us, the rental units below us down at Donner Lake, that is a much more likely scenario for a fire to start and come racing up this steep hillside that we have between I-80 and the association. So yes, the common areas are important, but we believe in our best professional judgment that these outer lying projects that pretty much ring Tahoe Donner, and that's where we're working with the U.S. Forest Service and the town of Truckee to create that ring, a halo project that decreases the likelihood of a start occurring down below us and racing up through the association the way that the Donner fire did. So we're not saying we're able to stop fire in the middle of August, you know, when it's 90 degrees out and we have not had rain for 2 months and we have had reoccurring red flag days and we have one of these normal 30-mile-an-hour winds that come from the southwest. We're not saying we're going to be able to stop that fire. We're buying ourselves response time for that mutual aid to come in here and stop the fire. So it's ground folks coming in, it's firefighters on the ground, it's air resources coming in, and what we're really focusing on out here is getting the landscape ready for that day. And Tahoe Donner is tested every year in this. We do have house fires, we have structure fires, we have escaped barbecue fires in the backyard. Last year we had a deck catch on fire down at Donner Lake. You know, that fire in particular, the air resources that went to that fire are really only what stopped that fire from coming up the hillside like what we've seen before. So, you know, what we're doing is we're planning out for this year, next year, the next 10 years, 20 years, 50 years.
Today we're up in the southwest portion of the association, the ridge right above I-80 and above Donner Lake. The Donner Lake Rim Trail runs through here, and it's a great example of managing a forest for multiple resources. We've got recreation that brings enjoyment of the forest, and then we've actually got the forest health around me. And where I'm standing right now, we just recently performed a project, a forest management project that is stretching right in back of me here. On the left, we have the forest the way that it looked, and about a month ago, we came through and we started to clear the forest that's off to the right. You can start to see that what you see off to the left has sticks and twigs that grow up into the understory of the small trees, and those smaller trees are growing up into the canopy of the larger trees. So we're looking at a forest that hasn't been managed in about 60 years. We're standing in the old Donner fire scar. And so what occurred here was a fast-moving fire that came from the southwest up over this steep hillside and came all the way through here and stretched all the way over into Verdi. So a very significant big fire, took out everything that was standing in front of it. And so the trees that I'm standing between here, the stumps, this is what the size class of tree that used to be here. What we have off to the left here is what regrew and what has not been managed. These are the trees that are growing up under the canopy of the tallest trees. And so as you look off into this forest, you can't see through it. It is connected from the ground up. That means that this forest structure, any ground fire that starts, anything that starts on the ground can move around on the ground and actually get moved up into the tree canopies. If we looked at the forest off to the right, we see that the ground fuels have been disconnected from the canopies of the trees. We've taken out all of the smaller trees in here, and what we've left are the medium-sized trees. We've limbed these trees off the ground 10 to 12 feet, so we've disconnected the twigs and just the light flashy fuels on the ground from the tree canopies that are up above.
All these projects really mimic natural low-intensity wildland fire. We're trying to get rid of the trees when they're small and clean up the forest floor, yet leaving the larger trees to be the forest there. And if you think about it, on average, they say every 5 to 15 years, the east side Sierras was burned over. Again, a low intensity burn. And we're just trying to mimic what Mother Nature used to do for us.
This project that we see behind us is actually funded through a Truckee Fire grant written to CAL FIRE. So there you have two different fire and forestry agencies that are helping us on private land, because they see the benefit of this project as a benefit to the larger forest stand, but also to local communities that are dependent on us. Tahoe Donner is the southwest edge of the town of Truckee. So as we look at broad forest out there that's managed for forest, then we look at kind of individual homes and as they start to encroach into that forest, and then we look at what we call the WUI, the wildland-urban interface. We are the beginning of that WUI here in Tahoe Donner, and so it's a benefit to the entire community to have us actively working here on the edge of the association, because that is where the fire protection starts to the broader forest. Here at Tahoe Donner, we're working with the town of Truckee, we're working with Truckee Fire Protection District, and actively developing projects between our forestry department, Truckee Fire Protection District, and adjoining landowners that create a broader defensible space.
As we start these projects, the whole idea is to keep the fire on the ground, and by doing so, we need to eliminate the brush and maintain a healthy forest above it. And in a lot of cases, after the Donner Ridge fire, we didn't have anything to work with. We had brush fields and a few small trees. So we've slowly gone in sporadically in different areas and treated that brush and planted trees, with the vision being that eventually we're going to be surrounded by 24-inch diameter trees and nothing on the ground, and it's a shaded fuel break. The shaded fuel breaks are set up so that the air tankers from CAL FIRE and the Forest Service are able to put the retardant on the ground, and it doesn't get hung up in the trees. So for these fuel breaks, they like a spacing of about 20 to 24 feet between trees. And that gives a little bit of room in between the crowns of the trees so the retardant can actually get on the ground and assist the firefighters in getting the fire out. The projects that Tahoe Donner Forestry completes are really no different than the projects that we're asking the property owners to complete on their properties. It's just a larger scale. We require the property owners to do small tree thinning. It's kind of the same for us, however, we up that diameter a little bit, trying to take out some larger trees just to create that same space that we're looking for folks to have on their own properties. So Tahoe Donner's Forestry Department kind of looks at the forest a little differently than your typical, what I would consider forestry grade work. If you get a logger to go in and do some work, their contracts and the forest practice rules state that the slash can be up to 18 inches deep. So when Tahoe Donner does these same projects, I don't think the membership would approve of having that level of slash, and we don't want that there because, again, we're trying to work and create fuel breaks. So we require the contractors now to either chip, masticate, or remove all that material so that we have very little material on the ground. So there's a big difference in cost between forestry grade work and then the finished product of what we expect of our contractors here at Tahoe Donner.
Times are changing, and with the large-scale fires we've had around us, there's about 1 year that they can salvage log those large fires and actually get those standing dead trees to the mill and have them be worth something. So all of the loggers in this entire region are focused on those large-scale projects. That means that we're not stopping. We're not saying, oh, well, we should wait. We're moving forward because we know that we need to manage our forest for recreational enjoyment and fire protection. So we're still doing our forestry projects, but what I can tell you is that the cost of these forestry projects have doubled over the last couple of years because the resources are contracted out to other projects. We are actively sending out requests for proposals and getting back responses from contractors that are approximately double what they may have been 5 years ago. We also manage our forest for different resources, and the main resource that is recreational enjoyment for the membership. And that means that when they walk through the forest, what we see in back of us, this is not what we are going to leave them to walk through. We are going to clean up this mess on the ground. This is also fuel loading that we're going to clean up for fire safety, and that requires a lot of diligence with the contractors. So all of that is an extra cost to do, what we commonly refer to as boutique forestry. We also need to get the membership ready to understand it's not one and done. What these guys have been doing, and because I've only been here a year, but each of these acres that we treat, we might come back and treat that same acre 5, 6, 7 times in that 75-year span to get it ready to be what we hope it is, to bring it back to a structure that is resilient against wildland fire. So if you walk through the ridge line near Bucknam Track, if you walk through a couple of these areas and you don't see vegetation on the ground, but you see large diameter trees that are, let's say, 100 feet tall, and we haven't recently been in there masticating, that's an effective shaded fuel break. That is where we've gone in and actively managed it, and it might have taken multiple entries, but over time, this is getting the forest structure that we manage ready to stand on its own, and hopefully decrease the amount of times we have to go in there and mechanically treat it. That's the ultimate goal. But when you own and manage 5,000 acres as an association, this is a massive investment. It's there for the enjoyment of all the membership, but it's also there to protect our outer rim of the association against wildland fire entering in. It allows us time to respond to any starts, whether that's lightning or human-caused fire. It buys us time to get in there and actually slow that fire down and stop it. Without this forest management, that's not a practical statement, in 2022. It's getting hotter. We're seeing extended drought. We're gonna, if anything, we are gonna have to ramp up our forest management activities and reinvest in how much we're out here taking care of this stand that we own.